I'd be willing to bet 99.99999% of the people don't know what I'm about to tell you. I want to be a type 1 person. I want to be a person who makes things happen.
My difficulties in life have been the writing thing. I got an issue with writing.
You can have different goals and different ideas, but we have to set a goal because
do the stuff that would fit me more so than do things just because other people were doing it.
Everybody is meant to do something. The Apostle Paul said this. Welcome back, everybody, to Dream Life Podcast. As you know, I'm Steve Buck. I am your host, and I have my co-host with me, and he is
Gabie.
Gabie, I think that we're making a lot of good progress towards our mission, which, to refresh everybody's memory, the mission and the idea of Dream Life Podcast is this. We're looking to help young African-American men get the ability to live the American dream. All right. And we have golden nuggets that you can get here for free.
Not chicken McNuggets, golden nuggets.
Right? Our nuggets don't cost anything, but they are gold. And they're gold because of the idea that if these young men will take this golden information that we have, bring it into their life, apply it to their life, they will be more successful than they've ever been.
That's right.
In their entire life. So today's episode, it's episode 9. We're going to be talking about how to make it happen.
How to make it happen, yes.
Okay, now we'll see how well that you did. Okay, review. There's 3 types of people in the world.
Number 1, the ones that make it happen.
That's right.
Number 2, those that watch it happen.
That's right. You got it.
Number 3, those that don't know what happened at all. They just lost.
There you go. You got it. There's 3 types of people in the world. Number 1, those who make things happen. Number 2, those who watch things happen. And number 3, those who don't know what even happened. So we're talking about category number 1 people. People that want to make it happen.
No excuse, no holds barred.
And so we're going to be getting into that very quickly. And before we do, though, I just want to take a minute before we get into the episode just to share the idea with the fact that as we develop the knowledge centers around the country that we're talking about, we're going to need help.
Right.
We're going to need sponsors. We're going to need partners to help us to that end. And just to give everybody an idea of what we're looking for or what we're going to need to make that happen,
right, is
we're going to need things like space. We're going to need someplace to put these knowledge centers in. Okay. And we want to start off in a lot of the major metropolitan areas, okay, which obviously there's more young African-American men who need our help in those areas.
Right.
So that's where we're starting our focus. So we're going to need space. We're going to need desks. We're going to need
people,
chairs.
Bodies.
We're going to need teachers, right?
Yes.
We're going to need
facilitators.
We're going to need facilitators, people who are willing to spend their time facilitating and scheduling the setup, times of these learning centers. We're going to need math teachers, English teachers, business teachers.
With credentials.
Well, yes and no. Yes, having the credentials is good, but here's the bottom line. If somebody can teach these young men the skills that are necessary,
right, and
they don't have credentials, well, we can do without credentials.
Right. I don't have any credentials, but I can teach you a lesson.
well, right. And that's the thing. I don't have a 4-year degree from college, okay, but I've been successful. And I don't have college credentials, but I've got more experience credentials than most people will ever have in an entire lifetime. So we're going to need computers. We're going to need software. We're going to need books. There's a lot of things that we're going to need in these learning centers. So sponsors, if people want to donate cash to make this happen, if people want to donate books, desks, chairs, space, whatever, please send in our email. Link is right on the screen. Email us. Let us know that you want to help us, that you want to partner with us so that we can really supercharge this whole idea that we're starting to help these young men out across the entire nation. So, questions and answers. Now that we've got several episodes out there, we're just asking everybody, whether you see us on social media or our email address, contact us through our website. Contact us with questions so that we can give you answers. And very soon, we're going to be doing a question and answer session. I don't know if it'll be live or recorded, but give us a way to contact you, because we're going to want to actually call people on the phone so that they can, ask their questions on air, and we can answer those questions on air. So that's kind of just some housekeeping stuff that I wanted to go through, Gabby. And so now let's get into the idea of how to make things happen. Again, we're talking about being a type 1 person, a person who knows how to make things happen.
Right.
And so the first step is that
you got to wake up.
You got to wake up, right. You have to wake yourself up, and you have to make the determination. This happened to me. Once I discovered that there's 3 types of people in the world, the nickel dropped from my head down to my heart. And I said, I want to be a type 1 person. I want to be a person who makes things happen.
Right.
Okay. I don't want to watch other people be successful. I want to be successful. I want to make it happen for me, for my family. So we have to determine that we are going to be a type 1 person. Right. And that's up to you.
Got to take a stand.
That's it. Take a stand. Determine who you are going to be. Because it's up to you. Right. I can't do it for you. Nobody else did it for me. I made the determination one day when the nickel dropped from my head to my heart. I became a type 1 person. Okay. I used to be, when I was very young, coming out of high school, when we didn't know anything, I was a type 2 person. Okay. I watched things happen. Okay. But that was important, because when I watched things happen, at least I understood there were people out there making things happen. And when you watch those people make things happen, they became successful. Okay,
you might learn something if you watch it.
Oh, you're gonna at least if you're watching things happen, at least you're learning.
Right.
Okay.
If you're paying attention.
Well, you are by definition. By definition, you're watching it happen, and you're learning because you are watching.
Right. Well, some people be watching and be in zone. They be dazed out.
Well, that's the type. That's the type 3 person, though, right?
Right. You don't
that's
know
the
what's
person
going on.
They don't know what happened because they weren't. They were playing video games all day, and they have no idea what happened in the world today. Okay. So each one of us, if we're going to be a type of person that makes things happen, we have to self-determine, bring it from your head to your heart. I am going to be the type of person who makes things happen.
Right.
Okay. Step number 1. Step number 2, begin to set goals for your life. And again, the goals are going to be different for everybody.
Right.
Okay. My goals are going to be different from yours. My idea of success is going to be different from yours.
Right.
My idea of living the American dream is going to be different than yours. So we can have different goals and different ideas, but we have to set a goal, because if we don't set a goal, we have no benchmark to measure whether or not
you want to get to.
Right. Are we moving forward, or are we moving backwards?
Right.
Okay. So if we set a goal, we set a benchmark. Now we can measure our success based upon how close or how far away from our goal that we are. So what worked for me was I would write down what my goal was. My first significant goal, I would say, was to begin to develop real estate. Okay. So I wrote down my first goal. My first goal is that I wanted to own some United States Postal Service facilities, because I was aware of the fact that the U.S. Post Office rents like 95% of their real estate of where there's a U.S. Post Office. Okay. And just since we're going by that subject, I didn't realize that there's 2 different United States post offices, and most people don't.
I kind of sort of know, but
I'd be willing to bet 99.99999% of the people don't know what I'm about to tell you. Okay. There is the original definition of what we call the United States Post Office. The United States post office is a legal entity that a lot of significant business standards get run through.
Right.
Okay. And you'd be amazed at the power of the U.S. Postmaster, the chief of the United States Post Office.
Yeah.
Okay. And even the local postmasters, the powers that they actually have are actually pretty significant. And the United States Post Office Corporation is extremely powerful, more powerful than most people even understand. Okay. What operates in parallel path with the United States Post Office is the United States Postal Service.
Right.
Now, the United States Postal Service, they deliver mail.
Right.
Okay. And it's a completely different corporation
Right.
than the United States Post Office. The United States Postal Service, they have literally no power to do anything or any business transactions or anything of that nature.
Right.
All they do is you pay them, I don't even know what it is, 62 cents or whatever it is. You give them 62 cents. You could put a letter in the mail, and they'll deliver it from Whitesboro, New York to Los Angeles, California. That's the United States Postal Service. Okay.
Right.
And so I say that just because of the fact that when you know some of the details of who you're dealing with, okay, now I was really, when I thought I was going to be dealing with the U.S. Post Office, I wasn't going to be dealing with the U.S. Post Office at all. I was dealing with the United States Postal Service.
Right.
And so my goal was to own some of their facilities, okay, because you could go to the bank if you built a facility and they had these bid packages that they put out, and they'd say, we want a 2,500 square foot facility in Georgetown, New York, and it's got to be built this way and that way to these specs.
Right.
And so you would bid on the rent. And they would look at the rent over basically a 40-year period and say, all right, who's going to give us the best deal for that post office rent, okay, for the United States Postal Service. So my first goal was I wanted to own some of their property. So in 1997, I bid on a post office in Milford, New York. I bid on the rent. I was successful at getting the lease for the building.
Right.
Okay. So the first thing that I had written down was my goal of owning United States Postal Service, although I wrote it down as post office, but in reality, I was really dealing with the Postal Service.
Right.
So then I wrote out the tasks necessary in order to win a bid for the United States Postal Service facilities. Okay. And although this isn't verbatim, but just from general memory, because again, you're talking, this is 25 years ago that I started this process. Task number one was to investigate which facilities were up for bid. Okay. So
they had to get a government listing or something like that?
Well, there's government listings. They had listings, and what the construction industry has is what they call Dodge reports.
Right.
And so there were listings in the Dodge reports. So I had to investigate the bid package. I had to request the bid package.
Right.
Task number 3 was I had to actually physically go out and find out what was necessary to get a building permit in the locale that these facilities were. Task number 4 was I had to get a proposal from an architect to put together the specific...
For the space itself.
For this for that specific building type. Now they had like a prototype drawing that was like maybe 6 pages, and so my architect had to take those 6 pages and basically design the entire building to meet New York State Building Code. Okay, and then I had to get a proposal from the architect. Then I had to put together a bank pro forma, which basically shows the bank. And there were a lot of banks that love to do business on these properties, because of the fact it was the U.S. Postal Service, and they always paid their rent. It's not.
That's federal. A lot of people don't know. That's why they say $300 you touch my mail, or a fine. Or jail time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I had to figure out on the pro forma how much was it going to cost to buy the land. Step number 7 was how much was it going to cost to build the building on the land.
Right.
Step number 8 was, how much was it going to cost me, for all of the cost, all included,
materials and everything, all of it, and
everything,
man hours,
the architect, the paving, how much to buy the building permit, put all that together.
Right.
Okay. Then you have what they call carry costs. I had to determine what the carry costs were going to be for the year that we're building the building, put all that together, come up with a dollar figure. Okay. And then we had to put our profit, how much of a profit that we were looking to make on top of that.
Right.
So we did that and came up with an overall number. And let's just say that overall number was $300,000. Then we had to take that $300,000, go to the bank, borrow that $300,000 that we would take in over a period of time. So in other words, we didn't spend the money all on day one. The first month we probably spent $40,000 and basically about $40,000 a month, for X amount of months.
Right.
Until we got to $300,000 and the building was complete.
Right.
And the United States Postal Service was then, they said, okay, you've built the building, you've got the certificate of occupancy, we move in and we start paying the rent. So that was my first significant goal that I ever achieved. I wrote down all of the tasks necessary to win the bid, build the building, do all the development, do all the construction. And that by no means, that was not an easy process.
It don't sound easy just saying it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm lost at step 5.
So, but the bottom line is that I had to write out what my goal was. I had to write down all the tasks necessary to achieve my goal. And then I measured my level of success based upon how things were going from step to step to step to step. Now, that just happens to be what it looks like in the real estate world and construction world, because I'm in both the real estate and the construction world.
Right.
Okay. But, you're in the music business. Okay. So just explain to our audience what it looks like from being a DJ and having that goal and taking those steps to achieve that from a DJ's perspective.
I mean, well, just in general, me, myself, I got ADD. So the writing and all of that stuff I'm more of a visionary. So, creative mind, you visualize everything. It's kind of like playing sports with me. You first down, I made 5 yards. I just moved a stick. You know what I'm saying? There's no general layout or plan of how I made them 5 yards, but I know I made 5 yards,
right? Because
I made that play, and that play said 5 yards. So I may not have the whole layout and the rundown of like you had with the the being able to see it because you wrote it out. So my difficulties in life have been the writing thing. So I got an issue with writing. Let
me just kind of inject another thought. Is that some people's minds work to such an extent that you can do it without actually writing it down. Okay. I just submit to you that when you write it down, it's easier to visualize.
Right. That's the average, what they teach people in general. Write it, look at it, say it to yourself, all that stuff.
Yes.
So my issue have been that. I mean, I might write something down and it might change in the next couple of hours.
And that's okay. That's okay, because certainly from the original vision that I had developing my first post office facility, a lot of things changed.
Right.
And everybody has to adapt, because you talk about sports.
Right.
Okay. Each team, everybody, they've got a plan going in on how they're going to attack.
A basic play. Right. A layout.
Right. But when the other team comes up and they change things up, well, the other football team, they have to adjust their offense or defense as necessary to address the changing, plays that they're seeing before them. It's no different than what we're doing.
Right.
We have to be ready, willing, and able to make those changes as we go along, because the field is going to change. The plays are going to change.
Yeah.
Things are going to be fluid, and we have to be
some shocking moments.
Yeah. There've been a lot of those in both our lives. So my point being is that you don't necessarily have to write it down.
Right.
Okay. It's just, it helps. It helps in the overall process. So if you can write it out, it's better off. Write down your goals, write down the task necessary to get there. Let me let you go ahead and finish on how you ended up getting into the DJ business.
Well, I actually stumbled, luckily, across some guys who were willing to actually show me and teach me and stuff, which wasn't common when I first started. You know, when I first started, either you had turntables or you had none. So you didn't really have people, unless you were tied through family or, you know, some special situation through school or whatever. You might have a person where you could go and they have turntables and stuff, and they be like, hey, I'll allow you to touch my stuff, you know. But outside of that, you couldn't practice. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, you had to be number 2 person. You had to sit there and watch people. And then become number 1 on trying to get something.
Well, we'll drop back just for a second, just to discuss that idea of the fact that you had to learn something, right? You didn't become a DJ because you were so handsome, or you know, everybody wanted your okay.
Right.
You actually you had to learn something.
Yeah, I had to focus in on some skills that I didn't know that other people were willing to show me. So
you had
no different than a carpenter or an electrician.
You had to practice.
Yeah, I had to practice.
You had to practice. You had to get good at something, and
learn
so
how to use the tools.
So that's what everybody needs to know, is the fact that you need to have a skill set. You need to have something that other people are willing to pay for.
Right.
Okay. You know, in my case, I could build buildings. Okay. And, you know, put them on a piece of property. In your case, you developed a skill set around music and DJing. Okay. So you have to develop skill sets and some type of commerce, so that you can have somebody buy what you're willing to sell, right? And so, go ahead, continue then.
So I mean, basically, the road from there was, you know, I had to figure out my setbacks, my strengths and weaknesses, and then, you know, with the teachings of the guys that I became friends with, they showed me how to do the stuff that would fit me. You know, more so than do things just because other people were doing them. You know, the stuff that would highlight my talents and stuff. They showed me how to put that into place so that I can be better.
That kind of strikes another chord with me, where everybody is meant to do something. Okay. And God has a plan for each and every one of our lives. Okay. And the Apostle Paul said this, which was, you know, very insightful. It says, my God shall supply all of your needs according to his riches and glory. Okay. So if you break that down, what the Apostle Paul was saying, he was saying that my God, the God that I serve, he will supply all of your needs. And I like to say God will supply all of our needs, not all of our greeds. Okay. And he said, God will supply all of your needs according to his riches and glory. If you just take that whole statement and that truth in, say to yourself, okay, God didn't say, Gabie, I will provide all of Steve's needs according to my riches and glory. He said, I shall supply all of your. He's including everybody in that statement. Okay. And we know the earth is the Lord's and all that it contains. Okay. So he owns it all. He created each and every one of us to be his children. And so what everybody needs to understand and grab a hold of is the idea that God has something good for each and every one of us. It's just a matter of, are we willing to do the work